Well, we're going to try a different channel right now, but we're pretty much live now.
Okay.
So sorry for the technical difficulty and everything that's been going on and whatnot, but we're here. And
You
look,
hear me?
glad to be here. Can you hear me fine?
I can hear you.
So I appreciate you chiming in tonight. First of all, it's everyone out there. We are live in effect. Zoom land and hopefully Facebook land and YouTube land at some point in time. But right now, we're definitely live right here on Facebook land. My name is Brother Damon Warren. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to another episode of Peace. Please educate all children equally. Manhood Mondays. But this time, although it's Manhood Mondays, we got to celebrate our queens. We got to celebrate our queens because it's Women's History Month. And we're going to talk about Black female entrepreneurs, specifically this awesome and amazing person right now in front of me, Bernadette L. Harris. What's up, Sister Bernadette? How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Listen, I'm awesome and amazing. We're going to get into it, but first I got to tell the people who may not know about you, and I had to shorten it up a little bit because you have this awesome and amazing, like a textbook of like a bio here, but I'm going to shorten it up and give it to the people so they can know who you are and what you're coming with tonight. All right, so we got Bernadette L. Harris. She has a BS in accounting, a master's of business administration degree, and also an MS in fraud and forensics. Now that sounds so intimidating. I'm gonna get into that in a little bit too. She is an award-winning tax and forensic accountant and certified fraud examiner committed to growing small businesses. She has helped thousands of entrepreneurs strategize, start, and successfully transition their businesses from profitable to profound. An expert at making accounting and taxes easy and fun, Bernadette has been featured on well-known media outlets, including ABC, CBS, NBC, to lend her insight on entrepreneurship and fraud prevention. And tonight she's with Peace. So we're awesome, amazing too. She is no stranger to the woes of entrepreneurship. Her business journey includes failures, plateaus, and larger than life successes. These experiences, paired with more than 1,000 client success stories, and she has learned in over 2 decades as an accounting, give her a unique ability to serve with understanding and compassion. And when it comes to her unshakable commitment to seeing her clients, you'll be hard-pressed to find a comparable match. Bernadette is also a best-selling author, adjunct instructor, podcast host, and TED Talk speaker. When she's not serving clients or wearing her entrepreneur hat, she may be visiting new places on her bucket list. And we're going to talk about that tonight. So what's up, Bernadette?
Sometimes when I hear my bio read, I'm like, oh, we got to cut that. We got to cut that. We got to
listen, we need to give you your flowers and talk about all the awesome and amazing things that you're doing out here in the world. And so let's just get into it. Let me ask you a question. I have this one question, especially after yesterday's post with Dawn Staley and everything. Did you play ball?
I did. I played at Cheney too.
I knew you played ball. I said, I would start with that. I said, so when I saw shout out, first of all, shout out to CU for life. You know what I mean? Shout out to Black women, shout out to Women's History Month, shout out to the Cheney Lady Wolves, shout out to Dawn Staley, shout out to Yolanda Laney, shout out to C. Vivian Stringer, and all that history of greatness that came through. And I'm gonna tell you this quick story. It's not about me, but I'll tell you one quick story. I was about to go to Central State in Ohio, and I was thinking about North Carolina A&T until I went to a Cheney women's basketball game, my senior high school. And that was like 82, 83 season. That was that season. When I went into that gym and I just saw the vibe and I felt the culture and the energy, I said, oh no, heck no, I'm gonna catch this 120A. That was that bus from 69th Street and go right up there to Cheney. I'm coming to this school because of the vibe of the women's basketball team.
Yeah.
So with you being someone who played a little ball there, how did that history and all that impact you to want to come in the first place?
You know, actually basketball is what brought me to Cheney. So most people don't know it, but I'm originally from Florida. I was born in Miami and I went to school in South Florida and I played basketball. You know, I played basketball because I was tall. So it was just like somebody said one day, hey, you're tall, you should try basketball. And I did. And I, had some natural ability I don't think I was WNBA bound, but definitely I had a little game, you know. And so I started playing basketball in middle school, played all through high school. And when I was getting ready to graduate high school, I didn't know what I was going to do college-wise. I didn't know where I was going to go. My biggest concern was, will my mom be able to afford to pay for me to go to college? And my basketball, and so, in fact, I was thinking about going to the military.
Wow.
And my basketball coach was like, nope, you're not going to the military. You're going to college and you're going to Cheney. And I said, I never even heard of Cheney, you know, and I'm like, I never heard of Cheney. I never been to Pennsylvania. I was in Florida, but he made it happen. He connected me with the coach at Cheney. And at the time, the coach was Jackie Devane. Well, it was tonsiled in, but Jackie was the coach. And so he connected me with Jackie, and they made it happen. They got me, you know, and I am not gonna lie and say that I was dying to go to Cheney. And it wasn't because of anything. I didn't have anything to base it on, but between my coach and the coach at Cheney and my mom, they just made it happen. My mom was like, yeah, we're leaving tomorrow. You know? So, you know, and she packed up my little bit of stuff in her truck, and we drove to Pennsylvania. She dropped me off at Cheney. And I'm gonna tell you now, even though it was not my decision, I'm claiming it now as my decision and one of my best decisions. I am so grateful for the years that I spent at Cheney, and I got so much. And I know you and we could talk about Cheney this whole show. And
that could be the whole thing. That could be the whole vibe.
Yeah, because I got so much from being at Cheney. And growing up, I went to predominantly white schools all my life, even though I lived in predominantly Black neighborhoods. Because of where I live in segregation, they bused all the Black people to white schools, and they took our neighborhood, which our neighborhood was big enough to where we could have had our own schools. And at one point we did have our own schools, but when segregation happened, white folks was not trying to come to our neighborhoods, right? And so what they did was they took our neighborhood and divided it into three. And they took a third of us and shipped us to this school, a third of us to this school, and a third of us to this school. And so I was always in predominantly white schools. In fact, we were 10% of the population. So growing up, even though I lived in predominantly Black neighborhoods, I was in predominantly white schools. And being in predominantly white schools, it's a different space. It is a different energy. And I was a great student. I was a student athlete. The only person that talked to me about going to college was my basketball coach. I was in trigonometry. You know, I was taking physics and all these kind of courses. So it wasn't that I didn't have the acumen to go to college, but I didn't have anybody talking to me about going to college. So when I got to Cheney and I saw all these Black people, I was like, what? That was the first thing, right? It was like all these Black people, and it was like all these people here going to college and trying to do something with them. I was so excited. Then I had all these Black professors and people just really caring about you, and the love. Listen, I fell in love. I totally fell in love. And I am so grateful for that opportunity. There is nothing that compares to the HBCU experience, especially for a student like myself who grew up always the minority. And to be in a space where I was celebrated, a space where it was comfortable, where people cared, there was compassion, all of that. Was, you know, and so that's why I go hard for Cheney. I give money to Cheney. I'm always doing stuff for Cheney, because all the success that I have today, I wouldn't have if it wasn't for the foundation that I got at Cheney.
Absolutely. And that can't be understated. I mean, you know, like you said, you went to a school situation coming up where you were the minority, and then now going to an HBCU, and it just, you know, it pours into all of us. But then for our children to go to other opportunities or other schools, whereas it doesn't look like we're the majority and we're the minority, it even enhances that growth even more so as well. Yeah. Being on those opportunities like that. So you talked a little bit about, you know, your background and whatnot, but why accounting and forensic accounting and all these these investigative type of things and whatnot. So you read your bio, awesome and amazing, but this is going a little deeper into that. What made you get into those things? And or was it a progression? Talk about that.
Yeah, it really was. So honestly, when I came to Cheney, I was an education major.
That's what I remember.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I was an education major. And here, one of the things is I'm first generation college grad. So I didn't really know a lot about professions. Again, I didn't have guidance counselors or teachers or anybody talking to me about next, right? Going to college or whatever next was going to be. And so the only profession that I really knew was education. It was like, okay, you good with numbers, you good with math, maybe you could be a math teacher, you know? And so I went to Cheney with the intent of being a math teacher. I was going to be an education major. And I took one education course and I was like, I don't know if this is really what I want to do. Like this is, and I remember talking to my college algebra professor at Cheney, and she said, well, you're really good with numbers. Maybe you should try accounting. And so I said, okay. So the next semester I took an accounting course, fell in love. I fell in love. It was like, yes, this is it. This is what I want to do. So I instantly changed my major to accounting, and I, started down the path of accounting. Now, forensic accounting wasn't a thing then. It probably was, but not as popular as it is now. And so I just got a degree in accounting. And as I grew in my profession and doing different things, I actually got interested in forensic accounting when one of my clients was a victim of fraud. And so I had a client who was a victim of fraud. One of her employees stole some money from her, and just kind of helping her walk through that, right? And get through that process made me more interested in forensic accounting and fraud prevention and things like that. So I have a heart for small business. Small business is, and we'll talk more about that, but the forensic accounting piece came because of that. And so I started to get into it. I became a certified fraud examiner. So I studied and took the test and passed. And then I wanted more. That's when I went back and got the second master's in fraud and forensics. Because again, I just wanted to get a deeper understanding, like more education, so that I could help small businesses. And a lot of times when it comes to like forensic accounting or fraud prevention, nobody is really talking to the small business owner. They're talking to the big corporations about the things that you can do to prevent fraud. But what the reality is, and this is actually the topic of my TED Talk, I talked about how fraud can kill a small business because they don't have the capital and the insurance and all of that. If you steal from Walmart, they're not going to go out of business. They're going to be okay. But you steal from a mom and pop, a yoga studio, a law firm, a dental office, or something like that, that's run by one or two people, chances are you could take them out of business in those situations. So that's it was almost like something that I am really good at and something that I'm really passionate about came together and just got married, I guess. Yeah.
So were you always an entrepreneur? You started working with a small company first, large company?
No, and that's the other part of it. My whole life is nothing that I ever thought, right? So I never thought I was gonna be an entrepreneur. It was never on my radar. I graduated from Cheney. I got my little degree and I was like, deuces to Pennsylvania, because that cold weather was not for me. But yeah, I actually started and got a job. I thought I was just gonna get me a little job and work. In fact, I worked for the government. I was working, I went back to Miami and I was working for Dade County. It's called Miami-Dade County now. When I was there, it was just Dade County. So I got an accounting position in Dade County, and shoot, I just thought I was gonna be there for 30 years and retire and get my little watch or whatever. And it didn't happen like that. So I started in Dade County, and one day I was introduced to entrepreneurship, and it was in the most unsuspecting way that I was introduced to entrepreneurship. So one of my cousins started selling makeup, And she was like, hey, I'm having a party, come over, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just thinking, okay, I'm gonna go over to this party and kick it with my cousins. We're gonna get some good food. We're gonna laugh, joke, have a good time, right? So I go to the party and it was Mary Kay. She's selling Mary Kay. And when I pulled up, I saw a pink Cadillac in the yard. Like, what is this? Right? You know, I did not know what was going on. So we go inside and, you know, greeting my cousins and everything. And fast forward, the lady that recruited her was a director in Mary Kay. She had the pink Cadillac. And guess what? She looked like me. I was sitting there like, what? Black people around here getting Cadillacs from Mary Kay, you know? Okay. And so she talked about, you know, we had fun, we did makeup and all of that stuff, but then she started talking about the opportunity, like the things that she was doing. And I did not realize the power of representation at that moment, like how powerful it is. And that's why I'm so grateful that you are doing this, because it's so important for our kids to see what's possible, right? And so me, even as a young adult, I didn't even think that entrepreneurship was something that I could do, because I didn't really have an example of that. Like I said, first generation, I'm like first generation, a whole lot of things, right? And so when she started talking about the opportunity that you can have in Mary Kay and the different things that you can do, my interest was piqued. And I didn't join right away, because full disclosure, it cost $100 to get in Mary Kay, and I did not have $100 to pay, you know, but I kept saying in the back of my mind, I'm going to do it. I am going to do it. I'm going to get my little $100 and I'm going to join Mary Kay. And that did. So that was my very first business. I was a Mary Kay consultant. I sold makeup for like a year and a half. I had a lot of fun. I made good money. I met a lot of people. And one of the things that experience got me, though, was it helped me to realize there were a lot of people in business that didn't understand business. And so, you know, I had the business degree. So even though I was out here pushing lipstick, I have a degree in accounting. I know business. I know numbers. I know taxes. I know all of these things. And that business made me realize how much education was needed in the entrepreneurial space. So again, I get to marry all of these things. I still believe that I was called to be a teacher. It's just was going to be a different way, right?
Absolutely, right.
You know, and so I had a chance. So when I started my accounting firm, which I started in 2001, when I started my accounting firm, I started it with the mind that I was going to educate small business owners, teach them the things that they need to do, and what are the things that you can deduct on your taxes, the stuff you can't deduct on your taxes, how do you keep your records, all of those things. And that's been the foundation of my firm. It's always been about educating. So even as the services have evolved and changed, education has always been it's always been the basis of what I do.
And you're still doing that now. So I see some of your clips and your videos that you put out through LinkedIn and Facebook and so on and so forth. So talk about that series. I mean, so people can know about that.
Yeah, and that's really it, because I'm really passionate about entrepreneurship. And here's why. The reason that I'm so passionate about entrepreneurship is, like I said, it was never on my radar. It was never anything that I wanted to do. But entrepreneurship gave me a life that I didn't even know I could have. Right. And it allowed me to do some things that I didn't know was possible. When I think about raising my daughter, most of the time as a single mom, entrepreneurship gave me the freedom and the flexibility to be able to do that. I never missed anything. I was at everything, every chorus concert, every parent teacher conference, anything that my daughter had, I was able to be there. I didn't have to ask nobody to take time off. I could block my schedule out and be at whatever it was and just be there. And as a result, like we were talking before we went on, my daughter was prepared for adulthood when she graduated. She hasn't lived with me since high school. So when she left my house in high school, she went to college, and sister girl never came back. And she is a full-grown adult with her own stuff, you know? And I just know that entrepreneurship is the reason that I was able to rear her like that, right? And so because it did so much for me, I'm really passionate to make sure that other people have that same experience. And so one of the things that I know is Businesses don't fail because people don't know how to do what they do. They usually fail because people don't know how to run a business. That's a whole different thing. Baking a real good cake, running a bakery, totally different things. So I'm committed to teaching you how to keep baking a good cake. Let me just show you how to run the bakery, right? And so I do a lot of educating. Like you said, I have a series on YouTube where I call it 15 Minutes of Fire. I just share in 15 minutes, just a quick topic. And it's all things that I've seen in my practice I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs. And so in 20 plus years, I've seen a lot of stuff. So I just do quick little videos, so you're not gonna get bored, right? You just pop in, get you a good little education, and hopefully be better at business. Even if you never hire me to be your accountant, I just want you to be better at businesses. I want to see more businesses be successful, less businesses fail. So that's the series. That's what I do. And all of it, you could get a lot. Like if you don't know how to run a business, go to my YouTube channel, because it's a lot of stuff on there. I put a lot of time and energy into creating real quality videos, quality information that's going to help business owners be successful. Because that's what I want. I want other people to have those same stories, especially when you have a first generation entrepreneur, right? That they don't have anybody. Like my daughter is very fortunate to be an entrepreneur and have me as her mom, because she has my example to follow. But I had to figure it out on my own, right? And so now that I figured it out, it's like, hey, we got the blueprint right here. Follow the blueprint so that you can, my daughter's gonna get there way faster than I will. The things that I accomplished in 20 years, she's gonna accomplish those things in 5, you know.
That her generation, that age bracket, I see that. I mean, I know some young guys that I taught and coached and so on and so forth. I'm ready to go work for them. I mean, because they're jumping out of planes doing this thing. I'm like, whoa, they just kept, because they came in with a mindset of being an entrepreneur, whereas though, you know, similar to you, I'm a couple years ahead of you, but came in, you go to college, you get a job, you work, right? So I kind of stayed that course and whatnot. I do some things now a little bit, not to the level of what these kids are doing or what you're doing, but only now, and even this is a part of it, right? You know, but these young people, and then even with you know, the pandemic also made people even do more things, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, you know, but it's just more out there now to become more, you know, self-sufficient and being an entrepreneur and whatnot. What kind of business is she into? Taxes as well, or if you
no? So my daughter is not an accountant.
Okay.
She has a career development firm.
Okay.
So my daughter actually she has her BS from Howard. She has a BS in health education, and then she's graduating in May with a master's in human resource development from Bowie State. So nice. Double HBCU grad. Nice. All HBCUs up here, right?
HBCUs for life. Listen, HBCUs for life. So that's awesome and amazing, Mama. Talk about the mission and the vision of your company. You talked about kind of what you do, but is there a specific?
Yeah. So again, so when I think about the mission and vision of my company, it's really about keeping small businesses in business, because I know for a fact that the businesses that fail, they fail because they don't know how to, they don't understand the operational side of business, right? And so teaching entrepreneurs the operational side of business is the part that keeps them in there. There's some people who are going to have a hustle. Their business is going to be a hustle for their whole life, and they don't have any intentions or desires to grow it as a small business. But then there are others who do have those desires to be able to grow their business into something greater. I say, you know, there's hustles and then there's empires, right? And then there's something somewhere in between. And so I wanted to help those that are trying to build empires. Let me show you how to do it, right? So the vision of our company is we want to see 6 figures to be the norm. It's going to be the norm for a small business owner, right? And so in doing that, it's really about partnering with small business owners and making sure that they have all the things that they need to be able to be successful.
Okay. Awesome. So when you talk about giving back, are there any things you're doing right now from the community service? I know you're doing a lot of things with Cheney, and Cheney, you know, as an alum, we appreciate that. We appreciate that all day, every day.
Yeah.
Talk about some of that, or maybe some other community service type things you're doing or have
So I
done.
was thinking about how I have been a mentor for young girls. I don't actively mentor now because we'll talk about that, but my whole life has
Absolutely.
changed, right? But I was mentoring girls. I've been mentoring girls for 20 years in different ways and capacities, right? And so I've always had the mind of wanting to be the person that I needed, right? So I think about what it was like for me. I told you all when I was in high school, I didn't have anybody telling me that I could go to college, not even relatives, because you know they hadn't done it, right? And it's no disrespect to my family. They don't know what they don't know, right? And so I never had anyone telling me, okay, Bernadette, you can do this, you could do that. Like I had people telling me I was smart, I had the good grades on my report card, I was not a discipline problem or anything like that. So when it came down to me after graduating and growing up and being an adult, I've always said, I want to show up for somebody's little girl and be the person that I needed when I was 10, when I was 12, when I was 15. I just want to be that person. And so I've done lots of mentoring since graduating college up until now, you know, and it's ranged from working in, I've worked in the church, I've worked in different organizations. There was a nonprofit organization that I worked with when I was in Atlanta that was dedicated specifically to girls. I served on the advisory board at some of the local high schools in the, you know, and just show up and speak at college day or career day or something like that. Again, just really show people what's possible, especially when you have kids that come from a home where they don't have that kind of role model, that kind of experience. So those kind of things are important. So that's my give back when it comes to kids. Of course, like you said, I do a lot of stuff with the alumni chapters of my of Cheney, just Cheney. You know, like I got three alma maters, but Cheney get all the time, right? They get the time and the money. The other ones get just a little bit of money. So
We get all the money to go to Cheney. We get all that money. We definitely do. So I know you mentioned briefly, you know, when you were in Atlanta, and when I heard the news this past year during homecoming of where you kind of moved to, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. That's courageous. That's cage busting. That's what's up. So, you know, you see how we can talk about it a little bit. So let's talk about how you do that in your new homeland, and you know, tell the people about that and how you're still doing business.
Yeah. So in May of 2022, I actually relocated to the country of Mexico. I live I'm in the state of Yucatan, which is on the southern border of Mexico. And one of the reasons that I moved here really was health. It was health-wise. I had gotten to the point where in the United States, I was doing too much. I was on team too much. I was doing too much and I was not taking care of myself. And I needed to slow down. And being an expat was something that had always been like, I thought that I would be an expat and retired. Like I never really see myself as being completely retired, but I do see myself slowing down and kind of cutting back at some point, right? And so when I think about my expat dreams, they always felt like it was going to be during a time when I was in that slowdown stage. I never really thought it would be where I'm still like fully working full time. But anyway, when I was thinking about how do I cut back? How can I cut back and continue to maintain a similar lifestyle to what I have here? That's when being an expat really came into play because, and people say, well, why Mexico? A couple of reasons. One of the reasons that I picked Mexico is because the US dollar is very strong in Mexico. So I know that my business has been virtual. I've been in business since 2001 and my business became virtual 10 years ago. So I was working virtually with clients anyway. Most of my clients, 80 to 90% of my clients, I had never met before, or we've never met in person. We might have seen each other on like Zoom or something like that, but a large percentage of my client base I never seen before. We've never met in person. So where I live was irrelevant. Sometimes you get people saying stuff like, hey, you want to meet for coffee or whatever? And it's like, nah, I ain't gonna be able to do that. But it doesn't really matter where I live. So that part of it didn't matter. It's because I knew that I would be able to continue to service my clients, earn money in the United States, and be able to spend money in Mexico. So when I moved to Mexico, the peso to US dollar was about $1, $1 equaled about 20 pesos. Mm-hmm. It fluctuates. And so lately it's gotten as low as 17 a couple of weeks ago, but so it fluctuates. But in saying all of that, it says that the US dollar is stronger here. So because I earn money in US dollars and I spend money in pesos, I can get more for less or less for the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. So my plan was be able to move here. I can scale back in my business, which I have, and not alter my lifestyle significantly. And so that was the plan. Mexico was also close. Like my daughter, like I told you, my daughter lives in DC. My mom lives in Atlanta. My dad lives in Florida. I wanted to still be able to get back to them if something happened, if I needed to, not just something happened, but if I want to just go spend some time with my mom, it's an easy flight from Mexico to Atlanta or from Mexico to Miami or DC to see my daughter. And so I wanted to be somewhere where it was going to be hard for me to get back. Didn't want to have to spend a whole day traveling or my month's rent on a plane ticket, right? So those were some of the factors that helped me to figure out. That's how I narrowed it down to the country. And when I picked the city, I was just Googling. So I'm gonna tell you, can I tell you what I put in Google? Ooh. I just Googled best places for Black expats because I wanted to live somewhere where it wasn't gonna be a crime to be Black, right?
You talked about that. Talk about that. Go deep with that for a second. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so I just Googled that, right? And I said best places for Black expats. And a whole bunch of cities came up. I should have saved the article because I can't remember all of the places that came up, but some of the places were really far. They were like across the pond. And so I'm like, no, I'm not going that far. So Mexico, the city that came up in Mexico was Merida. I never heard of Merida. I'd never been to Merida. And so I started researching it and I just Googled Merida and started Googling it, and it said that Merida was the safest city in Mexico. I was like, oh, okay,
That's important to know. That's very important.
That's important, like to move to a whole nother country by myself, all of that. I just want to be able to say like, okay, I'm gonna live in the safest city. So Merida is the safest city in Mexico. It is the second safest city in the North Americas. So I was like, okay. So it was safe. Then I said, well, I need to be somewhere where there's good internet because of my business. I need to be able to do business, right? So Merida's, the internet here is faster than my internet in Atlanta. Yeah, and cheaper. So my internet in Atlanta was like $150 a month, and my internet here is like $45, $47 a month, and it's faster. And I don't even have the top package. I have like the middle package. So there's like 2 more packages that's faster than what I have. So, internet, bam, that's there. And then there's an international airport because I needed an airport to be able to get back to the States if I needed to. So those were like the 3 things that I needed. I needed safety, I needed internet, and I needed an airport. And Merida had it. So I just started researching Merida. I went down the YouTube rabbit hole, started watching all these videos. I found Facebook groups and I just started networking with people. And I had friends before I moved here. So I was networking with people in Facebook groups and meeting people and just, some people you could just kind of feel their vibe and see if their energy kind of match your energy. And I met people before I got here virtually, met people. So I moved to Merida sight unseen. I'd never been here before, never seen it. Like I was initially gonna do what they call a recon trip, like come and check it out and then go back and then decide. And then I realized like, they got the 3 things you need, girl. What you got to check out, So And so I didn't. I just moved here. I moved here sight unseen, and I have not regretted it. There has not been one day that I woke up and said, "Girl, what did you do?" I usually wake up and say, "Wow, I live here." That's it. I look out like, so my bedroom, I have ceiling to floor windows, and it's just like in my bedroom. And so when I wake up, I used to put the shade down so that I could sleep, but now I just leave it up because when the sun comes up, then it just kind of wakes me up or whatever. And I wake up and I have this amazing view outside of my bedroom. It's a sliding glass door, so it's just a full, and I have this amazing view. And I wake up every morning and I look out there and I say, I live here. It's incredible. It really is incredible. And I do feel the safety. I feel it here. It is so safe. There are cameras everywhere. Like, and when I say cameras, like, how in the States you have like the street cams and all of that. So it's cameras like everywhere. So if anybody ever does anything, they don't probably be caught on camera, right? Mm-hmm. The cameras everywhere. The police presence you see it, but it's not threatening. Like when you see the police, as a Black person, when I see the police here, I don't get scared. Right. Like I do in the United States. It's very, very, very different. Kind of a sidebar, but kind of a sidebar. So we had a carnival here. Our carnival is very family friendly, right? So so we'll just leave it at that, right? So we had carnival here. So we went to carnival, and because it's so hot here, a lot of stuff happens at night because it's cooler at night. Right. So the parade was at night. And so they had the little parade, and we're sitting, they had like little bleachers and stuff where you could sit and watch the parade. So we're sitting and watching the parade, and the different floats came by. So the police had a float in the parade, right? So the police were coming down the parade, and the Mexican people started chanting, "Policia, policia," right? But they were chanting it like they loved the police, right? It was a lot of endearment in the way that they were chanting it. And I was there with a whole bunch of Black people. And so we were all looking like, what is going on here? It was so different. Like, we just like, wow, we don't do that where we're from, and they're not just like, there are a lot of Black people here, but they're not all from the States. Like, so I met Black people from Canada, UK, Australia, like they're from other places, and we all have very similar feelings, right? And so that was something that was very, very different for me, but comforting, right? Again, comforting. So it's just very different. The relationship between the police and the residents is very, very different here.
We can have conversations just about that alone, but I do have one question about that. If a person was interested in having a second home internationally, would you think they should consider where you are?
So where I live is very nice. It is very safe. It is not the cheapest part of Mexico. Okay. Right. So it is less expensive. Where I live is less expensive than what I had in Atlanta, right, but it's not the cheapest part of Mexico. And so, sure. Yeah. So second home, possibly it'll be kind of expensive to have a home that's just kind of sitting and you're not using it. But I guess it just depends on what your money look like, right?
Or renting it out, or like almost like an Airbnb type of thing, possibly.
It depends. It depends on where it is. There's some, like the building that I live in, you can't do that.
You can't do that, right?
You can't do Airbnb or anything like that. But some buildings you can, and there are lots of Airbnbs here. So it just depends on how you would use it. So
we come back to that. I'm just thinking, but as I'm listening to you, I'm like, huh. Okay, but anyway, back to our regular program. That's a whole nother. Maybe we'll come back and have a conversation just about that alone, because that's like, you talk about business, you talk about opportunity, so that could be for the right, investment dollars and so on and so forth, a business opportunity, depending on what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So
But I
you're
always
making,
say, I've had people ask me about the real estate, like, can you buy houses for real cheap here? They're affordable, but it's not like super cheap. And it also depends on where you live. So one of the things, Merida is not big, but it's not tiny either, right? So it's a good sized city. It's nothing like Atlanta. It's not, anything massive like Atlanta.
right.
But it's one of those places where if you live inside, most cities have like a perimeter, a highway that goes around the city that kind of, so here it's called the periferical. So if you live inside of the periferical, chances are you're going to pay a little bit more to live inside, but you're closer to everything. And so there are people who you could literally live here without a car, because with Uber and, or just being able to walk to certain places, it's very easy. Lots of people here don't have cars. But if you live outside of the peripheral, it's a lot less expensive to live outside of the peripheral, but it's farther away from all the happenings. So like the
Probably not
downtown
as safe.
area.
Probably not as safe either. Probably not as safe. Outside of this, it's not as much police also.
It depends on how far outside. So I don't think there's a real safety issue so much outside of that, because you still kind of have those same things, the camera, the high speed internet and all of that. It's more so those areas are just not as built up.
Yeah.
So like a person that doesn't have a vehicle is not advised to live too far out, because Ubers don't want to go out there.
Gotcha.
Because it's so far out. It's funny when you think about how far, if I tell you it in miles, like how far it is, you'll probably laugh and like, that's not far, but here it is, so if you drive somewhere, most of the places that I drive to or go to are anywhere from 2 to 6 miles from my house. Right. And so that's like a reasonable distance. One time when I went to Carnival was 15 miles from my house. That's considered far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here that's not far.
Right. In Atlanta, there's nothing either, but so here that's considered far. But like even to drive, because most of the streets are residential streets and stuff like that, you can't be speeding down the street because it's speed humps. You won't, it's stuff like that. So driving 2 to 3 miles could take 20 minutes just because you're going through streets and stuff like that. So, and depending on the time of day.
Well, I know you're an author, and I'm sure there's some sort of book forthcoming on your move.
Maybe, yeah.
A whole other business. I mean,
at some point, probably.
At some point in time, like that organization years ago, I think it was called 4 Doors or 4 Doors, if I'm not saying anything correctly, like the traveling book or magazine. It was an organization years ago. Used to make like different books and write-ups about different places around the world. Like you should like a black.
Yeah. So I mean, this experience has definitely. I have started journaling on YouTube. So
sure.
I do have those videos, just kind of sharing the experience. Because I think for me, with which I started out saying, I moved in May, but I didn't disclose it until December. And a part of that was because I wanted to get my experience without the noise. Right. So I didn't want people telling me to be safe all the time, which they still do. Right. Yeah. And then, saying stupid stuff like don't drink the water, like you could drink the water in your city. You know what I'm saying? Like
I get bottled water anyway.
Exactly. And so I just didn't want the noise. I wanted to experience it for myself. I wanted to whatever, if I was making mistakes, the bumps, the whatever, figuring it all out, I wanted to kind of figure it out on my own before I actually let people know that I was here. And so that's kind of like the reason why I was like, hey guys, by the way, I'm in Mexico and I've been here, so. And I also wanted people to realize that depending on what it is that you do, you could do it from anywhere. Like, I do coaching with small business owners. I'm coaching my clients every single month. They didn't know. They noticed that the background of my office was a little different or something like that. But it's just like, hey, did you rearrange your office? That was kind of the gist of that. And so it's just to let people know what's possible. Yeah. And so
Now, with April coming up next month, I mean, you do forensic taxes and fraud and so on and so on, but you still do the regular, what we call like tax, like income tax. You deal with that at all?
one of the things that I did, one of the reasons that when we've been talking so much that I feel like I've been skipping some of the story because the story is long, but one of the reasons that I moved is I wanted to be able to scale back in my business. My business was stressing me out. And the tax piece was the biggest stressor of them all, right? And so I've scaled back to where I don't do tax, I only do taxes for the businesses that we do the books for. Gotcha. And so by doing that and scaling back to do that, I took a pay cut, right? So I essentially, I took a real big pay cut, but by moving here, I was able to maintain the same standard of living. And in some cases, a little bit more. Like I could afford to have some things I have here that I couldn't afford to have when I was in the States, but I'm actually living on less money. So I'm paying myself a whole lot less than I was when I was in the United States, but I've been able to maintain a very similar lifestyle. And in some cases, again, like my housekeeper, I have a housekeeper and my housekeeper comes once a week. I had a housekeeper in the States, but I could only afford that girl to come once a month because she was expensive, right? And so now my housekeeper in the States comes every week and it's cheaper than my housekeeper that used to come to my house in Atlanta once a month. So it's just certain things like that. There are things that I'm able to do here that I wasn't even able to do there. So scaling back my business, that was that when I was doing that 20-to-1 thing, I'm like, where could I go and live and be able to kind of still maintain the same things? So my lifestyle has not, I didn't have to decrease my lifestyle by moving here. I could still do some of the things that I did when I was in the United States and essentially really be able to do a lot of the things that I couldn't afford to do in the United States. Like I said, like my housekeeper, or when I go get a massage, I get a massage now like twice a month. And it's $45 for a 90-minute massage, hot stone massage.
People, I hope y'all listening out there because I'm listening. I don't know who's listening. I don't even care because I'm taking my notes. Listen, I'm taking my notes and I'm just taking all these mental notes or whatever. This is awesome and amazing. Ladies, gentlemen, young people who's ever out there listening, and it's being recorded and it'll be saved and it'll be shared again as well. People, all of this, take these notes, right? And then
so it was just really about being able to change my lifestyle. So by scaling back on the tax prep, I essentially work with less people now. So I don't work as much as I did before. I was working 15, 16 hours a day. So I don't do that anymore. I don't work anywhere. I work 40 hours or less a week now, and I was focusing more on my health. That's why you see the transformation as far as me losing the weight.
Awesome. Awesome. I see you.
Yeah. And so moving here was really about being able to scale my business back and then focus on my health. And that's what I've been doing, like focusing on my health, focusing on my diet. Like I can walk down the street and just get fresh fruit from the fruiteria or something like that. I can walk to the grocery store. It's not like there's a grocery store that's less than 0.5 miles from my house. So if I need something real quick, I can walk to the grocery store. Sometimes I just walk just to get some fresh air and some exercise, because also in Mexico you can get anything you want delivered to you. So that's also a thing. Like is that has been you can get anything delivered here. And when I say anything, I mean like cash. You can get cash delivered. So sometimes like when I pay my housekeeper, I pay her in cash, or if I have somebody come to do, like when I first moved, I had to have somebody come and put some stuff together. I bought that bookshelf right there. I bought a new bookshelf, and I don't know how to do that kind of stuff. So I paid somebody to come put it together, and I needed cash. And so there's a service where you can have cash delivered. And so I just go online and order some cash, and they bring me the cash to my door. And I just get, and when they come to the door, I give them my code, they put the code in, and then they hand me the cash.
Wow. This is
So
so
I can, yeah, you can get cash delivered, you can get groceries, you can get medicine delivered, you can get alcohol delivered. You could get anything, all of that. So one time I purchased, one of the ladies in my Facebook group, I saw that she sold body butter, like the shea butter and all of that. And so I was like, oh, I want to try some. And I placed the order with her. And so she was like, we were trying to figure out like when we're gonna meet so I can pick it up or whatever. And I was like, oh, because I had already figured it out. So you can send, it's called a favor. You can have them go and pick up. So I had them pick up the shea butter from her, and they brought it to me. And you just paid like a couple dollars.
like a service charge, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, for them to bring it to you. So
there's so much people. Listen, I hope you're taking all these notes. There's so much.
Yeah, so it's, like one of the things that I could literally talk forever about this, but one of the things that being in another country has done, one is, if you don't hear anything that I say, is it will help you to see the propaganda that is perpetuated in not just the United States, but all over the world. Because when you hear Mexico, you just automatically think that it's this unsafe place. You think of the cartel. That's the propaganda that is being fed to you. But you don't know, what you really miss out on is there are some amazing people here. These people are so amazing, and they're so generous. It's just, I've never even experienced it. And it's also made me more, I have so much more respect for people who come to the United States, because the United States is not as friendly to foreigners as the friendliness that I felt here. Like I've never felt like leave my country, or what are you doing in my country? I've always felt very welcome here. And then, I'm learning Spanish. Well, I took Spanish in high school and it's coming back, but I'm taking Spanish classes and just making an effort to speak the language. That just means so much to them. It's just such an opportunity to be able to do things. And I've done things here that I would have never done in the United States. And so it's been an amazing opportunity. I don't know how long I'm going to be in Mexico. I ain't in no hurry to come back. I can tell you that. Like, I come back to visit, but as far as to come back to live, I just think about all the stuff I would have to give up to leave here. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I don't want to
That's
leave.
awesome. That's awesome and amazing. That's courageous also. Talk a little bit about people who want to do business, who want to, like, and they can go to your YouTube channel, they can go to your LinkedIn page. But if someone wants to get with you and do business, how can they do that? How would they contact you?
So my company is the BTB Advisory Firm. So that's BTB Advisory Firm. So btbadvisoryfirm.com. You can check out the services. We work with small business owners, with helping them with accounting as well as business strategy. So the clients that I work with and like I said, I've downsized to where I only work with a handful of clients. So the clients that I work with, I actually meet with these clients every month, and we look at what is the business strategy? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? How you're trying to accomplish it? And we create a plan, hold them accountable to being able to do that. I also have, like you said, I have a YouTube channel. So my YouTube channel is Trust Bernadette. That's my social media handle on all social media platforms. And so even if you are a business owner and you're not quite ready, because startups they probably can't afford me. I'm just going to be honest, right? So a lot of startups can't necessarily afford to work with me. There's still lots of ways that you can be connected, as far as following the YouTube channel, and getting all that free education that I put on there. I think I have like 100 videos on YouTube. So over 100 videos. I meant to check today, but I forgot. But it's over 100 videos on YouTube, and it's just all useful information that can help a small business owner. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I really am passionate about small business ownership. And so whatever I can do to help a small business, even if you don't hire me, even if you don't work with me, if I can give you some information that's going to make you courageous enough to start that business, or some information to keep you in business, then my, mission accomplished.
Okay. So we're going to like, you're a very busy woman. It's been a long day. It's been a long day here, long day there. But
my day is not even over, because that's the other part. I'm 2 hours behind you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for taking time out of your day to have this conversation and everything. But if there's some things that you would like to share with the people, with those out there around the world, about what it is you do, or if they're interested in getting into the business that you're into or business overall, what would you say? Floor is yours.
Let's see. So my parting advice: nothing worth having is easy. And I think a lot of times people don't do certain things, or they don't take certain chances because it's hard, or it seems to be hard. And if it's easy, it's probably not even worth it, right? So whatever it is, that whether you're trying to start a business, whether you're looking to travel, whether you are trying to do something like me and move abroad, if it don't let it being hard stop you from doing it, right? Because everything that I've done that has been hard has been always been the thing that has been worth it, the thing that's worth it. So that's my parting advice.
Okay. Listen, Sister Bernadette, it's always a pleasure to see you. And I'm going to go to the YouTube channel. I think I've looked at it a couple of times, but I'm going to give some more information. And I'm going to hit you up. I don't know if I can afford you like that, but I'm trying to get some of the free videos off of YouTube and maybe do an a la carte. Let me buy this, let me buy that. Trying to grow some business.
That's my whole thing, is like, even for the business owners who can't work with me yet, getting the information now will position you to be able to do that,
Exactly.
And that's the whole point of it, is hopefully, and if you like, I don't do the videos I have gotten clients from those videos, but I don't do it so much. The underlying purpose for me is really about just being able to help somebody, because there are a lot of people who want to do this and they just don't know. They don't know how, right?
You don't know. They don't know.
Just be able to help somebody and hopefully keep them out of trouble and all of those things, because accounting is usually the last thing that people think about when they start their business. You start your business and you get all the other stuff. You get your social media, you get your website, and then it's like, oh yeah, what about taxes? What about accounting?
Facts. Facts. Some of the most important things. Listen, my 3 least favorite letters are at the I, the R, and the S. But so I got to make sure everything is tight though with them.
Exactly.
Talk, they're the biggest gangsters in the world, and I don't want to mess with those gangsters. I don't want no smoke. Nope. Right there, none at all.
Nope. No.
So I see your advertisements. I said, you know what? I was looking for a sister in business for this month. I said, you know what? I got to hear what Bernadette. I said, I got to hear Bernadette, because
I know, and I think when you asked me before, it was probably during that time when I was just working so much that I couldn't even slow down. I remember you extending the invitation before, and it was just, my life was crazy. I was working way too much. So it is so great to be able to scale back and just be able to focus on taking care of myself so that I could be here. Yeah. Hopefully my daughter's going to give me some grandbabies one day. And so I want to try to be around and be able to run after them little jokers when they get here. So
you got the, please. I see how you doing it. So you're going to be around for all of that.
Yes, that's the goal. So that is why, the health piece is just priority. Like, hey, we got to get this in order so that you can be here. So I appreciate it. I appreciate being here with you today.
I appreciate you. Any final words? Anything else you want to add? You good?
I'm good. That's good.
Well, listen, don't leave yet. Listen, people out there in the world, Facebook land, YouTube land, Zoom land. Again, we have Queen Bernadette here. I hope you got a lot of information. Again, if you chimed in late, this will be saved and I'll be reshared again. So you get this information. Please go to her YouTube channel. Please go to her LinkedIn page. Please go to her website. And all the information was just shared a moment ago. So it's in the video. And again, to all of you out there, again, my name is Brother Damon Warren from Peace. Please educate all children equally. Make sure you share this with the children because I do these every single month, not for the adults, although we get a lot from it, but really for the babies. It's always trying to, as she said, she's an educator still to this day. Still to this day. Dropping science tonight, dropping science through her page and through her business. And these videos that I'm putting out here right now are for everybody, for all the babies, you know, but especially those of us that come from areas and look like the way that we do, because we need this information, because we don't know what we don't know. But that's what these are about. So again, please educate all children equally. Thank you for coming out. God bless you all, and good night. Yes.